What if Elon Musk were Chinese? It sounds like a bizarre question at first. But imagine how different his life, career, and influence would be if he had been born and raised in China instead of South Africa. Would he still be the world's richest man? Would Tesla even exist? And how would China's strict regulations and centralized economy shape his relentless drive for innovation? Before we dive into this fascinating thought experiment, let's first look at who Elon Musk really is, where he comes from, and why some people have actually speculated about his heritage. Despite his global influence, Elon Musk's roots are far from Chinese. He was born in Pretoria, South Africa, in 1971, to a Canadian mother and a South African father. His ancestry is a mix of Dutch, British, Swiss, and Pennsylvania Dutch, German. While his innovative mind and relentless work ethic might make him seem like a product of some secret futuristic academy, there's nothing in his lineage that directly connects him to China. However, that hasn't stopped speculation. In 2022, Kanye West made a bizarre claim on Instagram, calling Musk half Chinese and suggesting he was the result of a government-engineered genius program. Musk laughed it off, jokingly calling the idea a compliment. While this was obviously just a wild statement, it does raise an interesting thought. What if Musk had actually been born and raised in China? How different would his life and career have been? Now, let's flip reality on its head. What if Elon Musk had been born in China instead of South Africa? How different would his life and ambitions be? For starters, Musk's upbringing would have been shaped by China's rigorous education system. China is known for its intense focus on mathematics, engineering, and science from an early age. While the young Musk in South Africa was busy teaching himself computer programming and reading sci-fi novels, a Chinese version of him might have been enrolled in highly competitive STEM programs, preparing for the grueling Gaokao, China's infamous college entrance exam. But here's where things get interesting. Musk has always been a rebel, someone who pushes against authority and does things his own way. That trait might have clashed with China's rigid education and societal expectations, where conformity is often valued over independent thinking. Would he have thrived in such an environment? Or would it have stifled the very traits that made him who he is? If he had been born into a wealthy and well-connected Chinese family, Musk's opportunities might have skyrocketed even faster. He could have secured a top-tier education at Tsinghua or Peking University, then gained access to government-backed funding for ambitious tech ventures. On the other hand, if he had come from an ordinary family, breaking into the elite world of Chinese entrepreneurship would have been far more difficult. One thing is for sure, China's booming tech scene would have fascinated him. With companies like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei shaping the nation's innovation, a Chinese Elon Musk might have found himself building electric vehicles or AI-powered robotics within China's vast tech ecosystem. But would he still have the same level of freedom to disrupt industries as he does in the West? That's where things get complicated. If Elon Musk had been born and raised in China, his approach to business would have been dramatically different. In the West, Musk built Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and other ventures by challenging existing industries, breaking rules, and disrupting markets. But in China, entrepreneurship operates within a far more state-controlled and regulated environment. Would Musk have been able to achieve the same level of dominance? Or would government policies have reshaped his trajectory? First, let's consider Tesla. The electric vehicle industry in China is already heavily influenced by the government, with subsidies, strict regulations, and state-backed competitors like BYD, NIO, and XPeng leading the charge. If Musk had started Tesla as a Chinese entrepreneur, he wouldn't have had the same level of independence. Instead, he would likely have been forced to collaborate with the government or partner with state-owned enterprises to scale his operations. Unlike in the US, where Tesla pushed boundaries and forced legacy automakers to catch up, a Chinese-born Musk might have been working within government-approved guidelines, with his company serving national interests rather than personal ambition. Now let's talk about SpaceX. In the US, Musk privatized space travel, proving that private companies could launch rockets and challenge traditional space agencies like NASA. But in China, space exploration is strictly controlled by the China National Space Administration and the military-backed China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. It's almost certain that a Chinese Musk would never have been able to start a fully independent version of SpaceX. Instead, he might have been leading a state-sponsored space program, helping China compete in the new space race, but without the rebellious, risk-taking spirit that defined his real-life journey. Even Musk's controversial ventures like Neuralink and OpenAI would have played out differently in China. The Chinese government has strict regulations on artificial intelligence and biotechnology, often prioritizing national security and surveillance over open-ended innovation. A Chinese Musk working on brain-computer interfaces or AI-driven research would likely be operating under heavy government oversight, ensuring that his inventions aligned with the country's broader political and technological goals. But there's another side to this. What if Musk had used China's rapid economic growth and aggressive tech expansion to his advantage? China has produced some of the world's biggest tech empires, from Alibaba to Tencent to Huawei. A Chinese-born Musk could have become a major player in this landscape, leveraging the country's vast manufacturing power and government funding to dominate industries even faster than he did in the US. He might have launched an EV company even before Tesla, or developed a Chinese version of SpaceX that rivaled NASA decades earlier. Ultimately, the question isn't whether a Chinese Musk could have been successful. It's how his success would have been shaped by a system that values control over disruption. Would he have still been the bold, unfiltered billionaire we know today? Or would the system have turned him into something else entirely? If Elon Musk had been born in China, his influence on the world would have played out in an entirely different way. Instead of being the outspoken, unpredictable billionaire we know today, who regularly challenges governments, disrupts industries, and makes controversial statements, he would have had to navigate China's tightly controlled political and business environment. But would this have made him less influential, or perhaps even more powerful on the global stage? In real life, Musk built Tesla and SpaceX into worldwide brands, gaining international recognition and amassing a cult-like following. But would a Chinese-born Musk have had the same global reach? China's most successful entrepreneurs, like Jack Ma, Pony Ma, and Ren Zhengfei, are powerful within China, but face strict limitations on their international influence. Many have even been silenced or disappeared from the public eye when their actions were seen as conflicting with government interests. If Musk had been born in China, his ability to operate freely on the global stage would have been heavily restricted. Instead of being a loud, unfiltered personality on Twitter, now known as X, he might have been far more cautious with his words, knowing that too much public criticism could have serious consequences. Would he still be making wild, off-the-cuff statements about AI taking over the world or colonizing Mars? Probably not. At least, not without approval from the Chinese government. If Musk had built a Tesla-like company in China, it would likely have been deeply tied to state interests, focusing on domestic markets first, before expanding internationally. China is already the world's largest EV market, and if a Chinese-born Musk had pioneered EV technology under government support, China might have overtaken Tesla even sooner, dominating electric vehicle exports globally. However, SpaceX's international role would have been much trickier. In real life, SpaceX has contracts with NASA, the US military, and private space programs across the world. If Musk had been Chinese, SpaceX-style ventures might have been completely off-limits to Western partnerships due to geopolitical tensions. Instead, his space ambitions would have likely served China's military and space race goals, competing directly against the US rather than working alongside it. One of the biggest differences between the real-life Musk and a hypothetical Chinese-born Musk would have been his stance on free speech and AI ethics. In our world, Musk has openly criticized censorship, taken over X in an attempt to make it a free speech platform, and pushed for global conversations on the dangers of AI. But in China, free speech is heavily regulated, and tech companies must align with government policies on censorship, data privacy, and AI ethics. A Chinese-born Musk might have still been fascinated by AI and futuristic technologies, but his work would have likely been channeled toward government-approved projects, avoiding controversial topics like AI regulation, privacy concerns, or free speech advocacy. One of the most interesting possibilities is that a Chinese-born Musk might have become the ultimate competitor to the Western tech world. In reality, Musk has spent years fighting against traditional automakers, space agencies, and AI companies. But if he had grown up in China, he might have been the driving force behind China's technological rise, leading a new wave of innovation that directly challenged American dominance in space, artificial intelligence, and electric vehicles. Instead of Musk's Tesla battling Ford and GM, his Chinese Tesla might have been outcompeting Western automakers on a global scale. Instead of SpaceX working with NASA, he might have been leading China's space missions against the US in a high-stakes space race. The biggest question of all: would a Chinese-born Musk still be the same fearless, risk-taking visionary that we know today? Or would the system have forced him to become more cautious, calculated, and controlled? In the West, Musk has repeatedly bet everything on his ideas, nearly going bankrupt multiple times, defying regulations, and making enemies in the process. But in China, where political and business risks must be carefully managed, he might have had to play by the rules rather than break them. Would that have made him less of a genius? Not necessarily. But it might have made him a very different kind of leader. One whose ambition was still unmatched, but whose public persona, business strategies, and global influence were shaped by an entirely different world. Elon Musk has built his empire by embracing risk, challenging authority, and making bold, often controversial moves. But if he had been born in China, his journey would have been fundamentally different. China's business and political landscape operates under strict regulations, meaning a Chinese-born Musk would have had to navigate an entirely different set of challenges, some of which might have stifled his ambitions before they could ever take off. Would his personality have allowed him to thrive in this environment? Or would he have clashed with the system, leading to a fate similar to other outspoken entrepreneurs in China? In the West, Musk has made a name for himself by speaking his mind. Whether it's on social media, in interviews, or during shareholder meetings, he posts wild, unfiltered thoughts, calls out politicians, mocks competitors, and constantly stirs controversy. But in China, where the government tightly controls public discourse, would this kind of behavior have been tolerated? Consider Jack Ma, the billionaire founder of Alibaba. In 2020, he made one critical speech in which he publicly criticized China's banking regulations, calling them outdated and restrictive. The result? He disappeared from public view for months, and his company was forced to restructure under government oversight. If a Chinese-born Musk had been just as outspoken, he could have faced similar, if not worse, consequences. Instead of engaging in online debates about free speech, AI ethics, or global politics, he would have likely had to self-censor and avoid politically sensitive topics, or face serious repercussions. Musk is known for taking massive financial and business risks, often betting everything on his ideas. In 2008, he nearly lost both Tesla and SpaceX, investing his last dollars to keep them afloat. In 2022, he took on billions in debt to buy Twitter, a move that many thought was reckless. But China's business environment does not favor this kind of aggressive, high-risk entrepreneurship. The government plays a direct role in major industries, and any company that grows too big or too powerful must align with national interests. A Chinese-born Musk might have been forced to be more cautious, working within the system rather than constantly challenging it. But would this have limited his ability to revolutionize industries the way he has in the West? One of the biggest questions in this alternate reality is whether a Chinese-born Musk would have been able to coexist peacefully with the Chinese government. If he had been aligned with state interests, he might have thrived under government support, gaining access to resources and market dominance. But if he had been too independent, too unpredictable, or too influential, the government could have seen him as a threat, and history shows what happens to Chinese entrepreneurs who challenge authority. Even some of China's most successful business leaders have faced government crackdowns when they were seen as too powerful or too independent. His fate could have been 1. Forced to step down from his own companies like Jack Ma. 2. Silenced or placed under house arrest to limit his influence. 3. Pressured into full government alignment, sacrificing his personal beliefs for the survival of his empire. Would Musk have been willing to give up his independence to stay in business? Or would he have risked losing everything to stay true to himself? Elon Musk is known for his rebellion, risk-taking, and relentless pursuit of the impossible. But if he had been a Chinese, his journey would have been fundamentally different. China's system doesn't favor maverick billionaires who challenge authority. It rewards those who align with national goals. A Chinese-born Musk might have still been a visionary entrepreneur, but his companies would have been deeply integrated into the state, his public persona tightly controlled, and his influence limited to China's borders. Tesla. It would have been a government-backed electric vehicle giant, but likely not a global powerhouse. SpaceX? Impossible. China doesn't allow private space exploration. Instead, Musk might have been a key figure in China's space program, but never its independent leader. His antics, feuds, and unfiltered thoughts? Non-existent. Would he still be brilliant? Yes. Would he still be Elon Musk as we know him? No. Musk's story isn't just about intelligence. It's about freedom, defiance, and the ability to challenge the status quo. In another life, he might have been just as ambitious, but the world would have never seen the Musk we know today. And that raises a bigger question. How many other visionaries just like him never get the chance to change the world, simply because of where they're born? If this video made you think, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would a Chinese Elon Musk have been more or less powerful? Let's discuss.